Today I'll talk to you about a specific critical part of the complexity theory. As you know, complex is different from complicated. In complicated, there are very intricate relationships between the subparts of a system, as in a Swiss watch, but the connections are static. They don't change over time. Hence, specialists who know things inside out and have intricate models of everything are useful. Complex systems too are having numerous interrelationships between the subparts. The difference is that these relationships themselves change every moment. Hence, specialization is of no value. If you wish to benefit from this, Google more about the differences between complicated and complex. I also recommend you look up the Cunewin model of complexity from Dave Snowden. Okay, so let's start. All I'm saying here is from the book The Black Swan from Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Being a retired army man, I'll use the context of defense analysts covering the Ukraine war, but you can apply it anywhere. It's all about the folly of the specialists. The Russo-Ukraine war has spawned a whole new generation of defense analysts who very glibly draw specific lessons from the ongoing war. Since they obviously do not read thinkers like Nassim Nicholas Taleb and several others on complexity theory, this should help them. Now, war is not a complicated domain but a complex one. As I said, in the former, the cause and effect relationship are clear, albeit only to the expert. Hence, the experts come out and educate us, the ignorants. In a complicated domain, however, the cause and effect is hidden as well as ever-changing. Hence, expertise matters not. From the tantalizing proposition that a butterfly flapping its wings in Texas can cause a tornado in California, the experts draw the wrong lesson. That an expert with the right knowledge, like them of course, can even predict a tornado in California merely by watching a butterfly flutter its wings in Texas. But that is rubbish. The right lesson is that the cause and effect is so uncertain that to find out the chain of events for a tornado in California, you may need to go all the way to a butterfly in a park in Texas. And that too, back in time. And despite that, every time a butterfly flaps its wings, it will not result in a tornado. That's the whole point, which is sorely missed. While the tornado you saw last did come out of a butterfly flapping its wings in Texas, the next one you see may well be coming out of a butterfly flapping wings in Honolulu or a wild dog sneezing in Australia. Let's take another analogy to make the same point. You are given a melting ice cube and asked to predict the shape and size of the resulting puddle of water. While it is very difficult, but given the right mathematical and computer models, it is possible to reasonably predict it. However, if we reverse the situation, show you a puddle of water and ask you to predict what would have been the shape and size of the ice cube that this puddle came from, you can't do it. Nobody can do it. You see, forward extrapolation is difficult, but backward reasoning is simply not possible. The same puddle could have come from ice cubes of a number of possible shapes. The source could have been a butterfly in Texas, or in Honolulu, or a dog in Australia. And yet we try to look at an event and think we are smart enough to say what would have caused it. Not just what could or would have caused it, but we are sure we know what alone must have caused it. The next point is about forward reasoning itself. When a butterfly flaps the wings the second time, it will not cause a tornado every time. In complex domain, future does not mimic the past, but is created anew every moment. Think of a fat turkey. Every day, it sees its master feed it. So it prophesies that the master is a good guy. The future is same all days, happy feeding. But on Thanksgiving Day, today is not what yesterday was. The thankful turkey is, alas, no more than delicious dinner on a plate. So what should generals and defense analysts do if not speak on lessons learned? Indeed, that is the problem, what Nassim Taleb calls platonicity. That is, the desire to cut reality into crisp shapes. In the book The Black Swan, he says, they do not know about the subject matter because it's unknowable. That's what I am interpreting it. But they are much better at narrating or smoking you with complicated mathematical models. They are also likely to wear a tie. We humans also suffer from narrative fallacy. Nassim Nicholas Taleb says he would have preferred to call it narrative fraud, but settled for narrative fallacy. We look for patterns, cause and effect, where none exist. Patterning makes it easier for the brain. We like to simplify and summarize. Because that reduces the dimensions of the matter, we simply cannot look at any sequence and not force a causal link between them. Post hoc, ergo propter hoc. After this, hence due to this. All this would have been harmless were it not resulting in our impression of understanding of the random world, just understanding. Professionals, particularly those who get paid for their words, are able to provide a reason for anything. Let's take another example of this here. When Saddam Hussein was captured on 4th of December 2003, Bloomberg gave out the news at about 1300 hours. US treasuries rise. Saddam Hussein capture may not curb terrorism. When the markets actually fell, Bloomberg put out another bulletin soon after. US treasuries falls. Hussein capture boosts allure of risking assets. Talk is cheap. We treat the world as discrete, oscillating between white and black. In fact, it is analog. The grey itself has endless variations. Why is it wrong to draw a general lesson from a specific event? Because that would be inductive reasoning, which never works. Only fools. To create a general theory from a specific observed event is inductive reasoning, which is unscientific. The only way you can get to the truth is by deductive reasoning, which relies on falsifying to get to the truth. You need to show that this and that is not possible. Why? Because I have directly observed it. Falsification as the way to write logic was first propounded by Dr. Professor Carl Raymond Popper. You see, frogs die when you put them in the fridge for a week. But that means nothing. If you put a frog in the fridge for a week and it survives, it is relevant to the search for truth. You have actually seen the opposite to be true. If all frogs must die when put in a frozen or freezer for a week is true, then when this frog is put in the freezer for a week, it should die. But this one doesn't. Hence, it is not true that when frogs are put in a freezer for a week, they die. That's falsification. You can never prove a thing is right, only that something is wrong. Essentially, it is the chipping away which helps to remove whatever is the wrong, unwanted stuff. When all the bad stuff is removed, all that is left is the good stuff. So what has this war proved? All this war has proved till now is that it is wrong that tank columns and aircraft forays are immune to relatively cheaper missiles. It is wrong that political gains come only from clear tactical military successes. And it's also wrong that the world would jump to stop a war. But nobody is saying that. These are true as falsifications, but not as a general theory. We know what is wrong with greater precision than what is right. Seeing frogs live is a corroborative fact, but not evidence. Evidence is always negative. I can't say he's not a murderer, because when I had breakfast with him last Friday, he did not murder anybody. But if I did not see him murder someone, but if I can see him murder someone, I can say that he's a murderer. You get closer to the truth by quoting negative instances, not by verification. In any case, we verify more to confirm our held beliefs than to really test them. The psychologist Watson did this experiment. He gave us 3-number sequence to subjects, say 2, 4, 6, and asked them to guess the rule that generated it. The procedure was to be that the subject would speak out the next number in the sequence based on what he or she thought would be the rule. Hearing that response, the researcher would say either yes or no, depending on whether it validated the real rule or not. Once confident, the subject that he had gotten the right rule, he would speak out the rule. In this case, the correct rule was simply numbers in a descending order, 2, 4, 6. But almost no subject got it right. Because to get to that, they would have had to offer a number in the descending order, say 1, to which the researcher would have said no. But no one did it, because they were bent upon getting a yes from the researcher. That is, trying to confirm something rather than disconfirm something. The subjects tenaciously tried to get confirmation to the rules they had made up themselves but did not exist. This is confirmation bias. You always look for answers that would support your hypothesis, never what would falsify it. Nicholas Nassim aptly derides this as confirmation shonfirmation. I am told Indian Army has put great faith in 2 books, Bhagavad Gita and the Arthashastra, to guide them for the wars in the future. Now that would be supreme inductive reasoning, and that too relying on stories from a very, very distant past. It has to be wrong. I advise them to instead read Nassim Nicholas Taleb and the complexity theory, and also the Cunevin model by Dave Snowden